Just a couple of things before we get started. To make sure that you know a few things that are coming up. The biggie is next weekend, our Vision and Voice. Look on the website, I'm hoping, unless someone contradicts me, that you can find the details. There's going to be, let's see, David Zuniga is doing a presentation. Melinda Brooks is doing a concert Saturday night. We have lunch after church on Sunday, and there are other things as well. Art show is opening up. Yes, thank you. With music and food lining up. It's an extravaganza. Begins 7 o'clock on Friday. So just bring your sleeping bag and that's right. Hilda is selling her handwork again today, and we even have a piece demonstrated there. If you can, right where Carol Merrill is standing. No. I'm sorry. Yes, Hilda and her son Yvonne are living in sanctuary from immigration here in our church, have been doing so for over 6 years. Is that correct? 6.5 years. We are helping them try to navigate the maze of immigration and become permanent citizens, but they are here in sanctuary until then. She will be at a table out through these two doors to what we are calling the mission lobby. And there may be other things out there as well. You never know. It's not bait and switch, but it's kind of.
Nope, she's out there.
Oh, she's out here. Okay.
Yeah. We baited you and.
Yeah, you just wander the halls and look for dolls. Yeah. Am I forgetting anything else? All righty.
YouTube. And if you're here on YouTube, please click like so that we can spread the word. And if if anybody is here who doesn't have a name tag yet, Martha is going to be here many Sundays before the service, or you can tell me, and you don't have to be a member to have a name tag. And so just let us know. And Susan, there is one for you out there, just so you know. And I know that some of us are shy. So when we look at each other, we may not naturally smile, and it's not that we're not friendly. And we can be new people that are shy, or we can be people who've come here all our lives. But I want to encourage us all, whenever you see anybody, smile. I heard a quote from Henry James that I think really fits. He said, there are 3 important things in life. Be kind, and be kind. And I think smiling is a great way that we can be kind. So let's now kindly come together as a community.
I'm smiling. Good morning. As we come together this day, may we find in the simplicity of ritual nourishment for the unfolding days. And may we sense a deepening connection to each other and to the whole of creation. Let us come together on our common journey.
Please rise.
Children and the young at heart to gather. This is the last Sunday that Pastor Jim will be here for a month, and that Mr. Monkey will be here for a month. But don't worry, because Jack and Hortense will be here all the month of October. I had to remember what month it was. Please bring up the food, and we are so thankful to anyone who brings food. I just want to let you know that this week, the food bank wasn't able to provide us with the food we needed, and a very generous donor provided us with food. If anybody wants to be on a list to help contribute in that way, please let Laura Landsman know. We are so grateful for all the food that's provided.
Yes, I saw the numbers of folks. We provided food that will feed just under 400 people.
Sorry, they went and got my microphone special and then I left it. So. But I'm not thinking about my riding leave. No.
Can you say what?
Where's Mr. Monkey gonna write?
Ready? Shall we? Yes? Okay. Hello, all of my friends. Hello.
Hello. Bless you.
Isn't it wonderful that fall is finally here? Hopefully it will be cool soon.
Yes.
Hortense, Hortense,
Yes.
would you like to join our club?
Well, thank you for asking. I'm honored that you would want me. What kind of club is it?
It's called the Martyr Club. You can join, but you have to suffer for your faith, like Reverend Skunky and me, right?
That's right, precious lambs of God. Why, just the other day I went out selling Bibles. And do you know what people said?
I'm sure it was terrible. We're so persecuted.
We are. They said, stop ringing our doorbells in the middle of the night.
Well, they had to be heretics. You know what happened to me?
What?
I went door to door selling paintings of me and Jesus and nobody would buy them.
Persecution?
Yeah.
Why do they hate Jesus so much?
I don't know.
You are so brave.
I know I am.
All right, wait, everyone. A martyr is someone who stands up for what is loving and true. As Christians, we're supposed to serve others, not tell them what to do. The word martyr means witness. Sometimes we do suffer for saying what's just and true, but we aren't being persecuted just because other people don't obey us. Jesus came to serve, not be served, and we need to do likewise.
But if I'm not a martyr, why do people dislike me so much?
Because you're ringing their doorbell in the middle of the night. Look, I know you both mean well, but Christianity is about love. Young people, how can a church show people that it loves them? Anyone? Young man? Be kind, that's a very good one. Can you smile at them? Maybe? Can you say hello when you don't know them? Introduce yourself, maybe? All of that's a good thing to do. All right. So we can feed the hungry, we can visit people when they're sick, we can love them when they're lonely. And what the world needs is more love, so that it's the greatest gift we can give. Don't you agree?
Yes.
Oh, good. Well, Jim, do you have a song we could sing about that?
I suppose. Yes. I need a longer cord. Thank you all for being here. Well, I'm hoping we can do a song that's like one of my favorite songs that we ever do. And it's called We Can Do It, We Can Change the World. It goes, we can do it. We can change the world. We can do it. We can make it better. Love is calling every one of us. We can do it. We can change the world. We'll do it 3 times. We can do it. We can change the world. We can do it. We can make it better. Love is calling every one of us. We can do it. We can change the world. We can do it. We can change the world. We can do it. We can make it better. Love is calling. times was that?
Why don't you give us a cheer?
Do it.
Do it.
We can change the world. We can do it. We can make it better. Love is calling every one of us. We can do it. We can change the world. We can do it. We can change the world. We can do it. We can change the world. Thank you. Are they?
All the kids who would like to come to chapel are invited to come with me and carry now. And for parents who are new, if your kids come to chapel, we'll be back in right after the benediction, or right before the benediction. So, all right, let's go.
May we wrap our lives around the challenges of today, that we might be spent in the effort of bringing this world to a place of peace and justice. And in the quiet of our prayer, may we listen at the center of our being for the truth of our inner voice, one that is not stilled, but still, and that sets before us the purpose of this day.
As we gather together at this time of prayer, or if prayer is not part of your lexicon, this time of going inward and finding stillness, we start with remembering the 95, I also heard 110, so I'm not sure, families that came to the food bank yesterday. Almost 400 people were fed, and we had 13 new families, and lots of babies were there. We also start with our thoughts and prayers for Lynn King as her sister Ann Farrow made her transition on September 21st. The funeral is this next week. Please send prayers of gratitude for a remarkable life and legacy of service. We keep in our prayers all our friends who have just been diagnosed with cancer, who are undergoing treatments for cancer or recovering from it. And we also don't forget people with other diagnoses, because there's lots of other diagnoses that are challenging that people have. And we remember James, and I just went blank, Roger, our friends on hospice. Our prayer today is taken from the Native American Potawatomi Thanksgiving address. The children in the schools begin each week and end each week with a much longer version of this statement of gratitude, in which they set gratitude as their highest priority. And this gratitude is directed at all the ones who share their gifts with the world. Today we have gathered, and when we look upon the faces around us, we see that the cycles of life continue. We've been given the duty to live in balance and harmony with each other and all living things. We are thankful to our Mother, the Earth, for she gives us everything that we need for life. She supports our feet as we walk about her. And to our Mother, we send thanksgiving, love, and respect. Now our minds are one. We give thanks to all the waters of the world for quenching our thirst, for providing strength and nurturing life for all beings. We turn our thoughts to all of the fish life in the water and the vast fields of plant life. As far as the eye can see, the plants grow, working many wonders. We recognize the berries, the food plants we harvest from the garden, the medicinal herbs of the world, and the trees. Now our minds are one. We gather our minds together to send our greetings and thanks to all the beautiful animal life of the world who walk about with us. They have many things to teach us as people. We're grateful that they continue to share their lives with us and hope it will always be so. We thank all the birds who move and fly about over our head. The Creator gave them the gift of beautiful songs. Each morning, as they greet the day with their songs, they remind us to enjoy and appreciate life. We are thankful for the powers we know as the four winds. We hear their voices in the moving air as they refresh us and purify the air we breathe. They help to bring the change of seasons. From the four directions they come, bringing us messages and giving us strength. And now we turn to the west, where our grandfathers, the thunder beings, live. With lightning and thundering voices, they bring with them the water that renews life. We send our greetings and thanks to our eldest brother, the sun. Each day without fail, he travels the sky from east to west, bringing the light of a new day, and he is the source of all the fires of life. We put our minds together and give thanks to our oldest grandmother, the moon, who lights the nighttime sky. She's the leader of women all over the world, and she governs the movement of the ocean tides. By her changing face, we measure time, and it is the moon who watches over the arrival of children here on earth. We give thanks to the stars who are spread across the sky like jewelry. We see them at night, helping the moon to light the darkness and bringing dew to the gardens and growing things. And when we travel at night, they guide us home. We gather our minds to greet and thank the enlightened teachers who have come to help throughout the ages. When we forget how to live in harmony, they remind us of the way we were instructed to live as people. And we turn our thoughts to the Creator or Great Spirit and send greetings and thanks for all the gifts of creation. Everything we need to live a good life is here on Mother Earth. We have now arrived at the place where we end our words. Of all the things we have named, it's not our intention to leave anything out. If something was forgotten, we leave it to each individual to send such greetings and thanks in their own way. And now our minds are one. Amen.
Thy word is a lamp First, from Proverbs. Fear of God is the foundation of wisdom. Knowledge of the Holy One results in good judgment. Wisdom will multiply your days and add years to your life. If you become wise, you will be the one to benefit. If you scorn wisdom, you will be the one to suffer. Now from the Hindu Holy Scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. One whose mind is not troubled in sorrow, who does not hanker after pleasures and is free from attachment, fear, and hatred, is called the sage of steady wisdom. Finally, from 1 John, chapter 4, God is love, and those who abide in love abide in God, and God in them. Love will come to perfection in us when we can face the day of judgment without fear, because our relation to this world is just like Christ's. There's no fear in love, for perfect love drives out fear. To fear is to expect punishment, and anyone who is afraid is still imperfect in love. We love because God first loved us. If you say you love God but hate your sister or brother, you are a liar. For you cannot love God whom you have not seen, if you hate your neighbor whom you have seen. If we love God, we should love our sisters and brothers as well. We have this commandment from God. Ancient words from Scripture for present-day consideration.
I'm so grateful that y'all have been willing to sit through this sermon series. This is at least the last one before my writing leave. What I've been trying to do is kind of walk through some of my meanderings and wonderings about how does religion need to change to be a gift to the future? And we've gone a long way. In some ways, this is the very heart of the project. Moving from fear of God to courage to love, I think is very important. I was raised in first a Methodist and then a Presbyterian, sort of middle of the road, very acculturated view of things. We didn't believe in hell, but we still believe we were being saved from hell somehow. Work out. It was sort of the plight of progressive Christianity. It's like you're trying to eat a filleted fish, and the skeleton is kind of important to make sense of things. But today I'd like us to think about what it means to say fear is the beginning of wisdom, because that sure doesn't sound very welcoming. It sounds kind of like somebody's trying to make us afraid. And in my life, fear has not always led to wisdom. Usually when people are afraid or traumatized or hurt or depressed, we're just trying to cope. And when we do, some of the meanest things we can possibly do at those times, not because we're bad, but because pain isn't always a very good guide. In fact, Bertrand Russell, the philosopher, wrote that he believed that religion is born of fear. And as I've said before, when I first got to college trying to make sense of what I've been taught, run across this philosopher that says that really it's just we're afraid. We're afraid of what happens after we die. We're afraid of the guilt, afraid of being judged and punished. And that made some sense to me because my grandparents owned a funeral home in Burke-Burnett, Texas. And so part of the reason I wound up so strange, in terms of humor anyway, is sitting there and seeing this incredible dissonance between what the adults were saying and what they were doing. I mean, dressing up a body and putting makeup on and all this kind of stuff and say they look like they're asleep. They would cry and then say how happy they were that somebody was with Jesus. And as a little kid, I was going, okay, this is freaky. This is weird. And it wasn't the first time, but you realize the adults are trying to cope with something. And when my grandfather died, he was the mortician, and they did the funeral for the mortician, which is kind of strange. But that would hit me very different, because they were crying and saying he's with Jesus, and they'd say he looks so natural. He looks like he's asleep. Jimmy, would you like to see it? And here you go. And holy bejeebers. He didn't look natural. He didn't look like he was sleeping. He looked like a wax candle. With an ill-fitting suit, his hands looked like kind of karate type things, and that strange smile, I've heard it called fish lips, where the jowls just kind of settle back, that really disturbing look. And so I can understand the idea that religion was just invented out of fear, to frighten people, to scare them, to get control of them. But to me, it doesn't make sense to say that fear didn't exist before religion showed up, or domination, or superstition. They may not have been calling it that, but remember, we come from monkey folk, right? We have evolved, and we carry a lot of that evolution within us. And it is not religion's fault that life is so scary. In fact, when you look at the Bible, a lot of it is trying to relieve the fear. I've heard that there's 365 times when angels say, "Fear not." I was told that by a preacher, so I don't know if it's true or not. You always have to look these things up. But our text today basically said, if you're afraid of being judged, if you're afraid of hell, then your love is incomplete. We didn't say that literally in words. That's not somebody trying to scare you. It's trying to help you out of your fear. Some of the great heroes and sheroes that I had as a kid of the faith, not all of them were Christian. There was Gandhi, Martin Luther King. Malcolm X wasn't a hero at the time, but he got to be a hero. But those are all people whose religion led them into the fire, led them to face their fear. Every one of them was assassinated for their faith in many ways. So I understand it, I get it, and I'm all there when it comes to critiquing religion. But when we come to the heart of things, we're all asking questions about life, our place in life. What can we trust? To me, that's what faith is. What can we trust in life? What is the foundation for our living? One of the ways that I've seen progressive religion deal with this concept of fear of God as the beginning of wisdom is to translate it as reverence. And I get that, but when I read the ancient scriptures, I'm hearing something a lot deeper and more profound than that. And what I want to suggest is when you are afraid, when you're terrified, the theological parts of the places you can't get to a lot of the times. That what's real for you is your fear. That's all you know sometimes, is that you're lonely or you're terrified, or that things aren't working, or you're ashamed. That is the reality. And one way to understand our passage today is say that can be the first step toward wisdom. It's your fear, your loneliness, your pain. It's not saying it was sent to you to teach you something. It's not saying that at all. But it's saying there's something there that can help you love more, grow more, become wiser. We don't have time to completely unpack this today because it's too personal. But for a second, think about what are the things that human beings are afraid of. Let's just put a real quick list together. Death, that usually tops the list. Illness, pain. Failure, public speaking, shame, loss, loneliness. Somebody said something and I missed it. Love. Yeah, we can be afraid of positive things too. Violence. Uncertainty. So those are all, I mean, we could spend all day with that list. But those are realities in life. And if religion shuts that down, if religion asks you to feel to not feel what you feel, it's asking you to deny the one reality that's there for you. Now let's think about what fear feels like in the body. What is it? Where do you feel fear in your body? Gut? What? Tense. You're tense, yes. I thought you said tent in the tent. Well, I guess you could. It's tense, yeah. Where else do you feel fear? Gut? Something? Heart, chest. It can hurt your chest, your breath, your throat can constrict. You feel your pulse start sweating.
Mind that won't turn off.
Yeah, the mind that won't turn off, it just keeps chasing itself, crying. And the question that we're not going to also not have time to get into, but to think about this week is, what does fear do to your perception? Because I think that's what the wisdom teachings are trying to help us deal with. When we realize that our emotions all change how we perceive things. And when you're afraid, you're going to see the world a certain way. One of the most terrifying moments of my life, my sister was having a seizure and her face changed. And so I understood when Alfred Hitchcock would change, like take monuments and things and have something chaotic happen there. You can feel like the whole of reality is unraveling for you. So the more we get to know fear, the more we understand it. As long as we're running from fear, we don't understand it. One of the things that was really informative to me as a kid is I'd love to go to these horror movies. And then to have magazines that showed what the monster was, and you're sitting there, it looks stupid every time. When you look at it, it's comical, but when you're running from it, it's this incredible monster. So when Jesus said to build your life on a foundation of stone, not sand, I think that's the invitation to be who you really are, to feel what you really feel, and explore that. And the way out of the trap is to go deeper in who you really are. That's the foundation that you can count on. People that teach you to believe something or feel something are not doing you a favor. What the wisdom teachings are saying is whatever it is that you're feeling, go deeper into that. So that's sort of the first stop, that fear is the starting place towards wisdom, for true wisdom. When we pretend that the world is different, when we pretend like we're not afraid, it's really hard to go into this depth. I was taught that God is like this really friendly, sort of a Captain Kangaroo, was one of my heroes at the time. Most of you aren't maybe old enough to know Captain Kangaroo. It'd be like Mr. Rogers, which is fine until you get certain diagnoses, right? It's fine until your marriage doesn't work. It's fine until your kids are going through trouble and you just can't sleep because you have no idea if they're going to do something self-destructive or not. So to realize that God is not this kind of friendly being that protects you, that's a great place to start, but it's kind of like a pacifier. You know what I'm saying? It calms you down, but it doesn't give you milk. It doesn't nurture you, really. One of the ways to understand the symbol God is like a magnifying glass. Because what you're looking for is everywhere, right? So you're not going to find that with your ordinary way of looking at things. To experience something that's everywhere, you have to get very quiet, very still. And then you feel it as a kind of a quality behind everything. There are things in life that you should be afraid of, right? Tiger, lions, tigers, bears. I recommend fear. I recommend running. But there are also things that start off triggering fear that we cannot run from. And that's very strange. The fear of death is very strange because there's no place to run. To be afraid of God, I think, means to put your fear under magnifying glass and make it include everything. Let your fear be your touchstone to the whole circle of life. The more beings that you can love and care about, even if it's concern for them, even if it's feeling their pain, the bigger your own life is, the bigger your own context is. One of the most fortunate things that happened to me as a child was there was a field behind our house, and I'd come home from the funeral home at the end of the summer, and I had these images of people made up and dressed up and all this kind of stuff. It's really weird when you're a kid because you're looking at a very strange angle at those kinds of things. Then I go out in this field and I'd see death as it is. It just is. And you realize life and death are not two separate things. There's one sort of orchestra that's taking place. And what I realized, what terrified me, were all the ways humans try to deny death. Think about your images of fear, like zombies, gravestones, all of that stuff is human beings trying to pretend like it's not happening. Actual death is inseparable from life. And it's still sad, it still hurts. But it's like John is saying, that kind of love, that larger love, the common life, casts out the fear. You still feel it, but it begins to dissolve in a larger context. When I really look at everything and realize, I'm on the same menu everybody else is, and there's nothing I can do to stop that. And I start realizing that's really what gave me life in the first place, so it can't be that bad. When I die, I go back to whatever it was that gave me life in the first place. Right? My grave and my cradle are two angles on the same kind of process in life. Well, the last image, in addition to, what was the first one? That fear can be the first step towards this. The second is that the symbol God or the symbols of religion can be a magnifying glass to put us in touch with the whole circle of life. And I saw that before I saw Lion King, but you get the point. You just listen to the circle of life sometimes when you're feeling afraid. And then finally, an image from Hinduism that I also see in John's passage, but I don't think it's clear in Christianity. But the idea that fear and desire are two sides of one coin. There's an image in yoga where the mind is seen as a calm lake. And there are two winds that disturb that calm lake: the wind of fear and the wind of desire. And you can't really separate the two. When you desire something, you fear losing it. So to realize that what we're looking for is the balance between fear and desire. That there's a peaceful place that we can live, an eye in the storm that we can live in. And again, we don't have time to unpack this totally, but think about what desire does to your perception. I've never had a writing leave where I didn't waste the first week thinking, okay, I've got to have a different set of computer tools. I've got to have that. I got to have it now, right? I can't do any of this stuff if I don't have X, right? And then I need like a mechanical pencil. These wooden pencils are stifling me. I've got to, and I'll just do that for a week. So think about what desire does. You can be absolutely happy and then you want something By the end of the day, you're miserable. And there are things you need, of course. But to realize that happiness is balance. It's not attainment. It's not accomplishment. It's settling into who you are in the larger circle of things. The philosopher Schopenhauer is always fascinated me. He said that human beings, we alternate between terror and boredom. See, when we have what we desire, it's boring. When we don't have it, we're terrified. But I think we want that. Why is it that we go to see horror movies? At least those of us that do. Why do kids love Halloween? That playing with all of those strange images of what the adults, fantasize about death. Even infants. When you play peekaboo, think about how strange that is. That even before somebody has learned anything, they're fascinated by that face. But if it gets too fast, it's terrifying. If it gets too close, it's terrifying. If it gets too far back, it's boring. There's a dance there. And that dance, that balance, is where our missing happiness, our missing peace, our missing courage often resides. A lot of people say that this teaching about fear is the beginning of wisdom. I don't think you can reconcile that with what John is saying. I think it goes deeper than that. It's deeper than reverence. It's realizing that fear is your primordial life force. So is desire. They're not evil, they're not bad, but they have to be balanced. So the real foundation for your life, you're not going to hear it from a preacher, right? You're going to find it in your own life. Sometimes in the places you most want to run away from. And if you can go into your fear, your sadness, your grief, there's wisdom there. There's light, there's sustenance. Something that feeds you, something that quenches your thirst for life. If you can't find it, then the symbols of religion magnify the process so that you can find your larger context. And to realize that there are things in life that you can't run away from and things in life you can't hold on to. And that's the way of life. Once we say yes to that, there's a magnificent peace that's possible. We can't feel it all of the time. Sometimes we get overwhelmed, all of us. If we could remember that we're on our way home, that the worst thing that happens is we get back home again, then we can find that eye of the storm all through our lives, our place in that circle of life. Well, those are my meanderings over that concept. We'll take a minute now for you to think about how you understand this idea of fear and wisdom.
member to our community. And Jim talked about a practice in the past that they've done, so that we've done. And asked this, our new member, Andy Flores Corona, if she wanted to say a few words. If you have joined recently and we didn't ask you that, please, it's my fault. We're changing things. There's change, we're evolving. So I would like to invite Andy to come up and say a few words. She wanted to do that. Please also know that if you join us as a member, which just essentially means you can vote. You know, we're a democratic group. If you join us as a member, you do not have to come forward and talk. We may have you stand up and have somebody else introduce you. You don't have to come forward. But we're so pleased that she's here and she wanted to share her journey with you.
You want to stand there? Is that okay?
Go right ahead.
Let's see if y'all can see me back behind you. So I'm pretty sure. Let's see. All right, this is fine. All right, yeah, I was asked to come and share a little bit about my journey and how I made my way here, so I thought I would do that now. So good morning, everyone. My name is Andy, and never in a million years did I think I would be standing here in front of a church as a newly instated member. I've always been incredibly vocal about my misgivings, shall we call them, with Christianity. But you know, as I sat down to write this, it makes sense that I'm standing right here before you all today. I've always been interested in God. I remember being 9 years old and begging my dad to register me in classes at the nearby Catholic church, even though we weren't regular churchgoers. I don't know why I wanted to get baptized, but it felt important to me. I attended the classes and was dunked in water in front of a full congregation. Looking back, it felt more like an accomplishment than a spiritual experience. I don't remember feeling close to God. I just remember feeling afraid that the nuns were going to yell at me. So I crossed it off my list and moved on. I probably stopped attending church immediately afterwards. As an adolescent, that desire to know God came back around. I decided to join the local Young Life chapter. I even went to Colorado with them. And as a poor teenager, Young Life offered exciting opportunities and trips that I couldn't access otherwise. That's how they get you. But the woman who ran the group often made alienating comments, condemning same-sex marriage, talking about LGBTQ lifestyles as a sin. I was still figuring myself out, but I knew that didn't fit. I had a budding sense of morality that would later blossom into a heavy interest in politics and activism and civil rights. And that's how I crossed paths with Pastor Jim Rigby years ago. When he spoke at whatever political event it was, I felt something. My heart was talking to me. So I decided to find him on Facebook and moved on. I knew from a young age that I didn't just not agree with conservative Christians, but that they represented and fought for policies that were harmful physically and mentally to the people that I loved and cared about, and not to mention my ancestors. At the age of 15, I turned away from the church. I often got into arguments with Christians. When I would meet someone new and they would tell me that they were a Christian, my first thought would be, here we go. So I began graduate school and was introduced to existential theory. And I thought, yes, this makes sense. I love the theory's take on death and how a close relationship with death can make us live life more intentionally. Existentialism validated my frustration with Christianity. Many existentialists believe that heaven is just a defense mechanism against the fear of death. Death is scary. Would you rather believe that you go into the abyss, the unknown, or would you rather go to paradise, where you and your family will be together forever? Which door would you pick? I thought Christians were childish for believing in something like that. I scoffed, like an existentialist literally scoffed at the idea of heaven. Couldn't they see how convenient it was? I enrolled in this transpersonal psychology course in one of my last semesters of grad school. A week before the class began, my grandmother passed away suddenly, and her death primed me to be open spiritually. It turned my world upside down and shook every belief I once had. I went into the class with a grieving heart that had been cracked wide open, and that entrance allowed me to lay my skepticism at my feet. I was open, and what I learned, what I experienced, changed my life. Slowly, so slowly, I began to feel like there was something more. I began to feel like existentialists only had half the story. Each week, we learned about a new topic, near-death experiences, past lives, after-death communication. There was a man named Peter who died of hypothermia and was revived. He came to our class and shared what he had experienced on the other side. He saw his life in review, and it was his day of judgment. But it wasn't like how they tell us it is, with the scales and the list of sins that Jesus checks twice or something like that. He experienced all of the pain that he gave to other people. Every single wound he had inflicted came back onto him. Every time he hurt someone, he hurt himself. He judged himself in this karmic sense. He said he knew he was responsible for that hurt, yet he wasn't, because that hurt already existed in the world, and it just moved through him. Then he heard an internal voice say, "I made you, I love you, I've always loved you." Even as he experienced all of this pain, he was getting filled up with this love, this divine love. The voice said, "Come home, it's time for you to come home." This shook my world. This experience made me feel closer to God than any church service I'd attended. It made me feel closer to God than my own baptism. This experience opened my heart to God and made me believe in God. I asked him how his worldview fit alongside Christianity. He said it was a poor fit and that God has no gender. And yes, this felt so palatable to me. This jolted my senses as I believed for the first time in my life that I wanted to get to really know God. And I'll hold on to this experience forever. Fast forward a couple of years, and I'm almost done, I promise. I moved back here to be close to family. I commented on one of Jim Rigby's very controversial Facebook posts asking where he spoke, and he said St. Andrews. I looked it up, and it was 5 minutes away. I was there the following Sunday. I knew from that first day that I attended, when Pastor Jim Rigby was critiquing a picture of a cross made out of ammunition, that this church was something different. These Sunday services speak to me in the language that my spirit understands. This church speaks of, explores, embraces that love, that capital L love that my soul is made of. And it's all around us. But this church, it feels like a spring. It nourishes these deep parts of me. I'm a play therapist working at a domestic violence agency. In June, I was asked to go to Uvalde once a week for a month to help with some therapy groups. And it was really heavy. There's a lot of pain and suffering in this world. But this church's message, this gospel, this capital L love, feels like the only thing powerful enough to prevail over that kind of darkness, to fight all the greed and the loneliness that exists in the world. And it helped me get through that time. And it helps me in my work. So, this is my church. And sorry, Pastor Jim Rigby, but you can't retire anytime soon because I just got here. I've been helping Yvette and Bruce with the garden these past couple weeks, and I came to water the garden this past Tuesday, and I thought, this is my church. Again, Twilight Zone, like, is this real life, me, church? But it's true, and it fills my heart to the brim. So I want to thank all of you for making this such a welcoming space. I'm excited to be a part of this church and to use it to make the world a better place. Thank you.
And I know that many of you are looking forward to the opportunity to share your journeys with them.
Welcome back. Made for the life of love, gathered as the church for others, We offer our gifts for the possibilities of the beloved community. Let us be thankful as we give that we can do more together than we can do alone. Together, may our open hearts and open hands change us and help change the world. Will the ushers please come forward?
So many things we can't control, so many hurts that happen every day, so many heartaches that pierce the soul, so much pain that will never go away. How do we make it better? How do we make it through? What can we do when there's nothing we can do? We can be kind, we can take care of each other, we can remember that deep down inside we all need the same thing. And maybe we'll find, if we are there for each other, that together we'll weather whatever tomorrow may bring. Nobody really wants to fight. Nobody really wants to go forward. Everyone wants to make things right. So we're always fighting for it. Does nobody want to see it? Nobody understand. The power to heal is right here in our head. We can be kind, we can take care of each other, we can remember that deep down inside we all need the same thing. And maybe we'll find, if we are there for each other, that together we'll weather whatever tomorrow may bring. And it's not enough to talk about it, not enough to sing a song. We must walk the walk about it. You and I, do or die. We've got to try to get along. We can be kind, we can take care of each other, we can remember that deep down inside we all need the same thing. And maybe we'll find, if we are there for each other, that together we'll weather whatever tomorrow may bring. And maybe we'll find true peace of mind if we always remember we can be kind.
rise as you're able.
Thank you so much for spending time with us this morning. We went long, but I wouldn't take anything out of it. What a great morning. Thank you, Andy. That wonderful. I didn't realize she was a heretic. So, no, you got lots of kindred spirits here, so thank you. We're very honored to have you. Beautiful, Marilyn. Thank you so much for that. That's one of my favorite songs in the whole world. And thank all of you. You're giving a gift even if you don't realize it. You should share this time with us. So, and that includes people online. Well, I was taught not to feel fear, not to feel desires, certain desires anyway. And I think that the sages are calling us to a deeper understanding. That there are times when you're just sad, you're just afraid. And instead of trying to pretend like that's not what you're experiencing, to see that as the first step to wisdom, to joy, to learning, to use the symbols of religion not to deny your experience, but to deepen them, to broaden them, to use symbols like God as a magnifying glass, to realize that what you're talking about is everywhere. And finally, to realize that the peace that we're looking for is not outside of us. It's not something that we can run from. It's not something that we can grasp from life. It's a balance. When we join our part in this dance of life, when we find that peaceful core of the circle of life that includes us all. May this be a week of learning. May this be a month of learning. Because I won't be here, but I'll be watching from a distance. So I wish you peace, joy, wisdom, and humor. Go in peace.